Okay, we will go ahead and call the meeting to order. If you'll please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, please call roll.
Cash.
Here.
Shack.
Here.
Cottle.
Here.
Baldwin.
Here.
Beasley.
Here.
Littleton.
Here.
The minutes from the previous meeting, we have February 9th, 2026, our regular scheduled meeting, and February 27th, 2026, the special called work session.
So moved. Second.
Questions or discussion? Okay, please call roll.
Cash.
Yes.
Shack.
Yes.
Cottle.
Yes.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Beasley.
Yes.
Littleton.
Yes.
Public comments. Do we have anyone here for public comment this evening? You'll just come up here and say your name so we can keep record, please.
Hi, Liam Gallagher. First, I want to start, full disclosure, I am not a resident of Morehead. I work in Frankfurt in the public policy space and just wanted to come and give some context for agenda item number 10, which is discussion on some of the legislation that's moving forward in Frankfurt on the housing issue. House Bill 530 was filed this year by Representative Richard White, who represents the city of Morehead. The context behind it is that currently in Kentucky, we're about 206,000 housing units short. All of our 120 counties are affected by this issue. And if we don't make a change over the next 4 years, we'll see that number grow to about 300,000 units. That affects Louisville, that affects Lexington, that affects Morehead, that affects Western Kentucky. House Bill 530 is a principled approach to tackling this issue by speeding up permitting and also maintaining local control. Every decision that is made within House Bill 530, whether that's the permitting shot clock that requires approval of permitting within 60 days, or the By Right Housing Development Act, which is in House Bill 530, which gives local control to local planning units, gives them the ability to pass their own local zoning and planning ordinances, but requires that they do not discriminate against housing types. All of that combined together, we think, would fix the housing crisis in Kentucky. It's a small first step to doing so, and it both removes regulatory burden, but also maintains local control for cities. And so I just wanted to say that, give some context to the issue, and thank you all for letting me address you today.
Thank you. And who do you work for? Just
I
curious.
work for a group Americans for Prosperity, but I'm here in my individual capacity.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Would the act affect like homeowners associations and private developments?
No, sir. No. And it's not on the state to get in the way of private contracts between individuals, which is what an HOA or a deed restricted community is. The other legislation that's filed, House Bill 617 and 618, that's on this issue wouldn't even affect the city of Morehead because it requires a population of over 10,000 for a city in order to go into effect.
Follow-up question. Are you attending other city council meetings?
If I notice that the legislation is on the agenda, I would be happy to attend other city council meetings and answer questions.
Okay.
Say again, you're here as a private citizen?
Yes,
not
ma'am.
as-
Yeah, I'm the Deputy State Director for a group Americans for Prosperity. Our goal is to allow every American to pursue their version of the American dream, which kind of means letting you be able to afford to live, but I'm here as a private citizen.
What does your group think the biggest bar to this housing crisis is?
It's not a single bar, is what I would say. I'd say that sometimes government gets in the way, both at the local and state level. Things like interest rates are making housing unaffordable. Inflation is making housing unaffordable. So we have an entire, there are a lot of approaches to go at the issue. This is just one small step in the right direction.
And you don't think that changing permitting requirements would end up with a lot of issues for potential homeowners or renters?
I do not, ma'am, no. I think that putting a shot clock on the permitting issue would not. It requires a locality to make a decision within 60 days. If a locality can't make a decision within 60 days, they could deny it or just let it move through. It doesn't change any of the safety aspects of the permit. And so, no, I don't think that it would lead to any potential issues for homeowners.
Do you think it'll have any impact on the LLCs buying up private properties for rental?
That's a great question. I mean, I think it will have an impact on anybody who wants to build homes in the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
Okay.
So since you brought it up, I'm the city planner and also do building permits in the city in my jurisdiction. The 60 days thing won't affect us at all. I've been here 9 years. I've never seen a permit take 60 days to approve. 30 days would be a huge time, but it would be something that I don't have that I'm asking for. Housing shortage, there's a whole lot to be said about that, and I think it's, I honestly think it's more of a county issue than a city issue. It's basically stayed the same over the last 10 years, and I know we have more housing units than we've ever had. What should go on, I've permitted them and inspected them. Planning commissions being in the way, we don't have architectural standards, we have zones. The county doesn't even have planning in the county, so I don't see how that's gonna affect Brown County or the city proper. Any questions on how I might, since we're sounds like we're maybe on the radar here. Any questions? Please.
First, could you tell us again what the two main things you said, the 60-day permitting and what was the other?
Yeah, so the bill has a few sections. It has a 60-day permitting shot clock. So basically, the city or the planning unit would have to make a determination on the permit request within 60 days. The second part, it has a by right housing development act, which is it's model policy from Group Pacific Legal Foundation. But basically what it does is it says the city lays out or the planning unit lays out their planning and zoning ordinances. If a house or a residential property meets those ordinances, then they get an administrative check off that says they can go through with their plan. It has something called third-party review, which third-party review would be after building is complete, right? You can get somebody to come and inspect and do plan review. And so this would allow you to hire a third party to come in and do that. That third party would be licensed by the state. They would have to sign an affidavit saying that they sign off that this is livable. And then also their inspection or their plan review would have to be as stringent, if not more, than the planning units.
So are you saying that if a housing unit or a house meets the requirements of the existing zoning code, that this would give them permission to go, that's an approval?
So you would still need the administrative check. They would still have to come to you and say, hey, we're planning on doing this.
I mean, I guess what I'm saying is that's the way it already is.
Yeah, I'm sure.
If it meets the checklist and it gets approved.
And I'm not saying that this bill would necessarily completely affect more. What I'm saying is that this has become a statewide issue. And so it requires statewide solutions. And so I wanted to come and provide context from the position of somebody who's in support of the legislation on just kind of what's in it. I don't necessarily know if House Bill 530 would have a huge impact on the work that you do every day.
The only thing that I would, from our position, my position, the only thing that I would be cautious about is allowing outside inspections. For the most part, it'd probably be fine. I don't know why you would need it if you already have a state-approved building inspector in a locale. And I think it could lead to inspectors that work exclusively for a developer or so. And if the inspector is on that company's payroll, their incentive might be to pass an inspection that the local building inspector would pass. Again, I don't know that has anything to do with Brown County or Morehead or whatever.
No, absolutely.
But that's just another perspective.
It would have to go past the 60 days
I'd start to
before
say
that would come in.
looks like there's a date.
Is that the way it's
Looks
worked?
like there's a date,
Okay.
No, sir. So you've got
3
the
days
permit-
to respond.
You've got the permitting aspect, And then after the permitting aspect, right, you have the third-party review. So the third-party inspector would take liability. So for instance, we'll say that I have an apartment complex, I get it done by a podunk third-party inspector, right? That inspector is taking liability on what happens with that building at that point. It's not on the city, right? There's a specific carve-out for the planning unit that they don't take any liability from the third-party inspector.
So the code already allows for third-party inspections. In fact, much of the code requires special inspections from third-party approved inspectors, which are generally engineers or architects.
Or trades, electrician, plumber, HVAC.
Those are mandated inspections by the state. HVAC, electrical, plumbing, all get inspected by the state.
In a lot of cases, those are the ones that hold the project.
And then soils, concretes, reinforcement in the concrete.
Fire stopping.
Septic.
Often fire stopping are things that are kind of mandated in the code that we have to require special inspection. Scott's shaking his head. Scott has worked for special inspection companies, for a long time. So it's interesting. It's an interesting bill. I struggle to think how it must be a locale that's so different from ours that I just don't see the issues.
And the idea behind it, so there was a study out of Washington, for every month that you're delayed in actually moving people into a home, it's about $4,400 in added cost. There are cities in this state that have a lot worse problems than I would say. I don't know of any problems specifically coming out of Morehead, right?
Which is very interesting that our representative sponsored this bill when it's not an issue here. And so I just want to kind of bring this full circle for everybody. A few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, I got a phone call from multiple city and county managers asking if Morehead had a problem because our representative sponsored this bill. I was unaware of it. I did some research. I talked with Rodney at Kentucky League of Cities and dug in pretty heavy immediately. And it is also interesting because we do have, like you said, discussion of pending legislation affecting cities. We've actually never publicly said that we were going to be, actually that House Bill 530 was of any interest to us. So I would assume it came from my message to Representative White that said, I'd like to meet with him to discuss it because I think there's some key points that should be taken into consideration, especially since it was filed without talking to our local municipality that he does represent. Cities have strong feelings that should be considered and are displeased with the current way that the bill was written and lack municipality involvement. I was responded to, which I actually alluded to in our work session, that I had some interaction that didn't go well. And it said that American for Prosperity is behind the bill, and that he has met with the Commerce of Lexington, and it was also endorsed by the Kentucky Home Builders, Realtors, and League of Cities, which is actually inaccurate. The Kentucky League of Cities has not endorsed this bill and actually was heavily advising the representative on some changes that need to be made to the bill. So for city council's point, I assume that's why we're having this discussion tonight, because I addressed it with our representative. Happy you're here, you're always welcome, but we're certainly a group that's going to share our feelings. There's a lot of bad bills this session, and I won't say this is a bad bill, but I'll say this is a bill that is not affecting our community. And so the fact that it's being pushed out, and that's why I asked if you're going to other cities, because I would assume, with all due respect, that you're here because of my message. And I don't want to know that, but go to the cities that are having this issue, because they would probably be very insightful for you. But
my comment was
this is very political.
A solution in search of a problem.
May I speak?
Section 10.
No.
Yeah, we can. So first, thank you for coming. All the way from Frankfurt to here, we really appreciate that. I have no clue how you figured out what our agenda was. Facebook, I suppose. And I also want to assure you that we are very aware that housing issues exist, and that we are examining that, trying to figure out ways to work on it. We had a committee that met for a full year, county and city representatives, to kind of try to figure out what we can do. And I have my eyes on whatever I can find about housing. We have a local chapter of Kentucky Tenants that I've worked with and continue to work with about ways that we might resolve this. It's kind of related to what the mayor was alluding to, and that is, as Rodney pointed out, there's really no issue with what is in that because we're already, for us, because we're already doing those things. And I'd be curious if all 400 plus cities have been looked at to see which ones it would affect. And is it just a case of the state government wanting to have more impact on the local government? So I don't know that there's an answer to that right now, but I would encourage you to look at the other 402 cities and 120 counties and see which ones this would really have changed the way they do things.
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't mean to get us all sidetracked. I just heard about this a couple of times and I'm like, what is everybody talking about? This has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Can I say something? The reason why this bill even come about, it was my fault. And I'm gonna tell you, the inspection process for Morehead is great. But I install septic systems. I have in 80 counties. The worst counties to put them in, Round, Menifee, Bath. I don't, and I live here because of the inspection process.
That's not city.
Because, listen, I can put in a septic system, $8,000 for Lemon County. If it's in Morehead, it's $16,000. And I'm still the cheapest.
I understand. That's way outside of our
That's
realm.
but that's how that bill got started, and it's in there about the septic system process, and I talked to Richard about, that needs to be city controlled, and everybody needs to be on the same standard. Why we got these 2 or 3 counties doing something different that the other 120 is not, or the other 117.
Because we don't even,
Yeah, and
there's
that's,
probably not a handful of septic tanks in the city limits.
yeah, and there's thousands that's in this county, right, I get that, but, and I mean, why are we so restricted on what we can do in Round County?
Sure. Well, a lot of, I said it again, I said it because I think there is a perception that Morehead equals Round County.
Yes.
We've been following the building code for decades and the county just started, but that's a plumbing inspector issue, which is
Well, and
a
that's
state issue.
So that, they got took away from the plumbers, which would have been easier if it still had the plumbers. It got took away from the plumbers years ago.
Inspecting septic tanks?
That's not a plumber no more. Yeah. Chris Ferguson,
Well, health department then,
the health department, and I get that, the health
which
department.
is also state.
Yeah, that does their job, and it's just, why is it so restricted here? They have their own set of rules. And that's how this bill got started. I called Richard, I was like, and I'll explain to y'all what I did. I buried a septic system in Morehead, in the city limits. It was in the city limits. It had got approved. It took 2 weeks to get approved because, you know, they work 1 hour a week and you gotta catch them when they're in there. They come out and approved it. Plumbing inspector come out, which had got nothing to do with septic. He wanted it uncovered. So we called Richard. We didn't have to uncover it. He went on ahead and approved it. But that's how this bill got started about, was over permit issues on that level.
Where's the
So-
septic tank in the city limit?
It is, it's right there at Christie Creek. It's still inside the city limits.
That's outside.
That's outside.
Well, I don't know. It keeps
Well,
pushing the city.
and, but I think the overall piece is that we feel your frustration and we hear you, but it also has nothing to do with the city of Morehead. So I think your efforts would be much more suited at fiscal court, but also the state level. I mean, they're state inspectors. They do not come through us at all. So
Yeah,
I hope you'll take those efforts there.
I don't know why it's a city.
I would like to point out that it's just a kind of a sideways endorsement of the job that Rodney and his department does here, that we expedite things and get things done.
Yeah.
It reveals that if nothing else.
I didn't set the system up.
But you follow through with it.
Mayor, we missed a reading on the meeting minutes from last time. Probably
No,
missed
both of
that.
them were on there.
Oh, you called both of them?
Yeah.
Okay, we can move on.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there other public comments? Okay,
We only did one.
nobody here. That I know of. The next is the mayor's report. So you have all of the department reports in your packets. If you all have questions for those, it's been a very busy month, specifically for Parks and Rec. They're getting ready for baseball, softball season. We tend have been trending to break our own records for signups the last few years every year. So we'll see how it shakes out right now, which I guess signups just ended. Just ended. So, of course.
Championships will do that.
There you go. There you go. Under quarterly reports, the first we have is the Morehead Utility Plant Board.
Hello, everyone. It's been a quarter since I've been here, so we've been really busy over at the plant board. Our last regularly scheduled meeting was January 26th, and we had a special meeting on February 26th. Our next meeting will be on March 30th. Our water revenues are $182,000 less than budget. That's due to industrial usage. Sewer revenues are $186,000 less than budget. Again, that was industrial usage. The water plant expenditures are under budget by $58,000. The sewer plant expenditures are under budget by $45,000. The maintenance department is under budget by $45,000. Stormwater revenues net out favorably over the last 4 months by $14,000. Out of $1,059,500 in capital projects, we've spent $451,000. The water plant year-end statistics, at the end of 2025, we treat the raw water that came into the plant was 2,137,753,000 gallons.
Did you say billion right off the bat?
Billion.
Billions of stars.
Finished water that we treated was 1,931,260,000. Our average daily usage was 5,291,000, and our peak day usage was 8,547,000. So the water plant's done. The raw and finished water lines are done. The tank is almost done. The intake is done. And so we're waiting on the phase 4 project, which is the infrastructure replacing the 801 water line, 801 South water line, and extending an 801 North water line. We're still waiting for the funding to come through. That was what we got, the $2 million in KIA funding and the $3 million from Hal Rogers' office. So we're just waiting for all of that to process out so we can get moving and starting on that. We officially decommissioned the old water plant. We have a new certified water plant laboratory accepting samples from surrounding utilities like Round Water, Bath County Water District, West Liberty, all the surrounding ones were permitted to take their samples for emergencies. We hosted an EPA multi-state AWOP task force, which is with EPA, and what that is, it's an area-wide optimization program. What they do is the people from EPA come in and they want to specialize and figure out how something works technically so that they can go throughout the country and teach other people how to do it. So they came to the water plant to specifically learn about our treatment and how we do things so that they can go train other operators, other people in need of technical assistance how to do so. We started to host continuing education trainings quarterly to more assist our needs and our local utilities needs. For every licensure that someone holds, they have to have 24 hours of continuing ed service done through the state accredited program. So, you know, if you have a class 3 water distribution and a class 3 sewer distribution, it means you have to have 24 times 2. So there's a whole lot of education that goes into all these licensures that we have. So to make it easily available, not only for us, but some of our surrounding utilities is our goal with all that. We hosted a KWWOA state board meeting at our new water plant. The daily average production was 42%, and the peak production was at 54%, and the plant ran at 92% efficiency for the month. Wastewater treatment statistics for 2023. We produced 933 tons of biosolids. We treated 1,137,902,000 gallons of wastewater and an average flow of 3.1 million gallons a day and a peak day of 7.5 million. We have our Class A land farm permit now, so we're one of only 4 places in the state that actually produce Class A biosolids. It's actually quite a big deal. So if you want some biosolids, we're your guys. You can put it on your garden, make your grass grow, I promise. List of, let's see. So we're also working on a new wastewater plant, trying to work with local representation on that to try to assist us in getting a new plant. Our maintenance department works incredibly hard all the time, and you guys have multiple water, sewer, gas, stormwater, lift station maintenance, repairs, educations, trainings, all that with all the pictures that we send you guys. In administration, we have began our billing software switchover, which we're going from Utility Star to MuniLink. This has been a very long process. We're hoping to have it out in the next bill, which is why a lot of people got a little postcard just letting everybody know that your bill's going to look a little different when it comes in. It's not going to look like it used to look, so you just want to prepare everybody. Just like with anything else, when you start something new, you're going to have some bugs and some kinks to work out of it, so we ask for your patience as we work those out. And then at some point, once we get that functionally and operating, it's going to be more effective. We'll have paperless work orders. It'll integrate with our GIS systems, which is all the mapping that we use. And we'll be able to get an app. So everybody can download an MUPV app and just pay it like you pay your Fleming Mason or your Kinetic or Windstream or something like that. So we're attempting to get into the 21st century. We've also implemented a system called WIMS Rio, which is the Water Information System. It's a cloud-based platform that allows us to communicate with data collection and analysis for compliance reporting and integrating all that with SCADA, which is all like your tanks, your lift stations, your water pump stations. All of those are monitored by SCADA, so you know the levels, you know if there's an alarm, if something goes off, something is wrong. So when you integrate that with WIMS, this system, you'll be able to generate reports off of that. If somebody wanted to know how many times the main lift station shut down in the month of January, you'd be able to pull a report and be able to say that. We also are able to track all of our compliance data, which is everything that we do, like compliance-wise for our laboratory reports and samples. We're also working on ways to sell our wonderful water to other communities. Lots of people around us are in desperate need of water, and now that a lot of times you waited so long, it becomes really costly. So another option would be for us to sell water. So if we can sell water to other communities, that helps keep the cost down here, because you get to spread the cost over a larger playing field versus a smaller one. We're also working on a gas incentive program for both residential users and developers. Redundancy, everybody in a storm, it's 9 degrees out and your power goes off. It'd be nice if you had gas logs, or if you had something other in place to keep you warm, to be able to cook and things like that. Also, gas is becoming a whole lot less expensive again than electric. Electric keeps going up and up and up and up and up. So it's nice to have that as a redundancy option or something to look into. So we've been putting together a program so that we can start advertising it to help residents. Billing was at 99% collection. Our board actions, we approved our 2024-2025 audit, which is what you're doing in this one. We had a clean audit. We approved the 2026-2027 budget and compensation study, and we joined the ethics training with City Council and the board members done by KLC. And that's all that I had, I know. That was a lot. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, you mentioned capacity, like on the water, like it was at 42% or thereabouts. That number is a lot less than I remember. Is that because of our new plant? Okay.
Yeah, because we have more capacity to play with now.
Okay, and that's why
A
we're,
lot of times when those peak usages come up, it's because there was a lot of water breaks. Like when you look at your report and you see, oh my goodness, it was at this percent, there was so much more water used. When you look at your reports and you see how many water breaks there were, and you can see it at the bottom, that's kind of how you can gauge that.
yeah, that number's like half of what it used to be when you reported it. On the revenues you mentioned were down like on sewer and water because of industry usage. So like the industries are using less?
Yes.
But they're paying less each month?
They are using less. They're not working as long hours or weekends or whatever, and so they're conserving a lot more and not using as many shifts.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Holly. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Holly.
Next, we have Downtown Morehead Incorporated.
Well, we started the first quarter of the year out doing accreditation and all the stuff that you do to report to everybody. We did that, plus a big ice storm, that slowed things down a bit for everybody. But we got through that pretty good, and I shared with the council some of the documents that we submit when we do that. Pertinent one, as well as some financial stuff. And then we began the second quarter of the antique market this past weekend. We chose our antique market, had the prettiest day of 2026 so far, and that really helped out Saturday afternoon, about 1 o'clock when everybody was coming. But it was a successful event. We had about 450 people paid and about 550 people in the room for 2 days. So there was a lot of folks in town that came in for that. And then we was we'll look at the spring, you know, getting the EDC and the branding in town and getting people coming in back underway. April the 7th at the conference center, we got the Last Waltz, which is a show put on, produced by Glenn Ginn. And that'll be a fabulous show. If you're familiar with the Martin Scorsese movie where the band did the Last Waltz, they're going to do a lot of that. And then the 18th, we had the Battle of the Bands at Bats and Oats Commons. That'll be the 5th year we've had that. That'll bring in 1,000 people throughout the course of the day, believe it or not. It's bands from UK, Marshall, Paul Blazer, I think Paul Arntt's Dunbar, Bellarmine, Northern Kentucky. Folks come in from all over the state. And then the Derby will be May the 2nd. We'll set the stage up, put the big screen TV on the stage and hang out all day on the BOC and watch horse racing. And then May the 23rd, what I have going right now is we have the 23rd booked, waiting on what to do maybe with the 22nd on the Friday night. But I've got a band here. You may be familiar with Buddy Ratliff, who's a fiddle maker here for many years, you know, and his son Steve and Eddie Horton. Most people know Eddie Horton. Well, Eddie's daughter, Sarah Bond, is a fiddle player. She has a band in Louisville called the Pretty Goods. And they're more than pretty good. They travel the country. You know, they travel the world as children, if you remember them. So they'll be opening for Southern Legacy, which is a new bluegrass supergroup. I know Adrian says there's no way there could be a bluegrass supergroup. There truly is. And this guy's got, they've got Ron Block from Allison Krauss. His band is in that band. Josh Williams from Tony Rice's band. Steve Thomas, a bunch of 5 guys who are very well known in the bluegrass world. I encourage you to come see them. They're really good. They just had a big hit in the fall called The Hills of Carter County. And so we look forward to having them. And then on June 12th, I guess we still got our bicycle race we're planning on having, and that'll bring a bunch of people into town. I'm not going to plan anything else around that because that'll be all we can stand probably, people-wise. And then Freedom Fest, June 27th. Working with the Tourism Commission. They've been very good about coming up with the money that they always spend on Freedom Fest, and they sent it to me. So we've got all the money that they give us up front. We've got our deposit paid on the fireworks. That was the big issue, the fireworks, and getting the deposit paid on that. So that's all in place. It'll be the 27th. And we'll get with the mayor and Jenny back here, and we'll talk about some other things, because we do a lot of things on that one day that we can spread out through that week. as we get up to the third and run Morehead, where we basically close down our part of the Independence Day party and turn it over to somebody else. But we'll have a full week that week. As you know, we do a car show, we do a pageant. We're going to do a pageant this year. And we have gospel music, and we have the bounce house world down there that is very popular. But all that's coming, and that'll take us up to the end of the fiscal year, pretty much. And it'll be a busy time as we're pushing our downtown brand, get people to come see us as much as we can. So,
Good work.
questions, anything? Any questions about the doc, stuff I seen, you just call me. I'll reveal with you where I come from, how I got the numbers. All those those documents all have a spreadsheet behind them. That's just the end result. So anyway, anything?
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, under future growth, development, and projects for the city, I think you want to do your Rodney's going to do a presentation.
Yeah, I'll tell you about the developments first, and then I'm gonna talk a little bit about the Green Sinks project that we have going on, give an update on it. As we're giving that update, Robin Gateway is gonna pass around a sign-in sheet that just says you were here. It's very important that you put your name and initial in the yellow column. That is how we get credit to be able to get our grant to make this thing happen. So projects in the city, we have always a lot of electric sign, we have several food truck permits, a couple of, we've got a demolition permit from some of the blighted properties that Tripp has spearheaded, coming to fruition again. We talked about it before. Got some interior remodels and room additions, office upgrades. Probably some of the biggest news, not big news, but some of my bigger permits is I did issue a permit for the new Walmart fuel station. It's going to go at the entrance to the Walmart Supercenter. Also, the Huck's building permit has already been issued, so that'll be getting underway pretty soon. Construction's well underway on the new First Street Dental Clinic. That's going to be something we need. St. Clair is working on a new business office on North Blair in the old Kentucky Utilities office. And the new fiveplex on North Blair is kind of approaching final inspection. They've been hanging drywall and doing finished trim. That's about it for the building projects. And I guess I ever talked about this, but these projects added about $5.2 million worth of value to our community. These are dollars that the builders are spending. Jenny, can you put the Green Sinks?
Could I ask a quick question?
Sure.
You also have the dollars for permit fees?
This month was $30,800.
So that's a month?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
It's not always that high.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's higher.
Spring is probably a big one. Yeah, thanks.
So we've been on the Green Sinks project for what seems like ever.
4
In
years.
reality, 2 or 3 years. The point we're at right now, we got a grant to do a feasibility study, and which wouldn't be possible except we have a watershed program thanks to the university. We have a lot of data from the Corps of Engineers thanks to prior council paying for some studies. We also received what's called a 319 federal grant that the intent of it is to actually do design work on a few actual green sinks, as many as we can. So part of the grant process, we have a match, meaning that whatever state or federal government will give us dollars, but we have to put our own skin in the game. One of the ways we have a match on this last grant project was by giving public presentations. So that's why I say it's really important that you sign this sheet and put your initials on the yellow column, or else we don't get credit for it and we're not going to get reimbursed. So this is an old picture of like from the 40s of Triplet Creek, just to kind of give you an idea that that's pretty much the same way it looks today.
It's a lot wider then, wasn't it?
I mean, it depends on where you look. Yeah, very possibly. But this is kind of the natural state of it, Jenny. This is today, not necessarily the same spot, but it could be. Jenny? Go ahead. Just an example of flooding and how it's such a, I mean, it's the problem. You know, there's more deaths and more damage and more property damage from flooding than really anything else. So talk just a minute about what the 100-year floodplain means. Everybody thinks it means if you get a flood, you're not going to have another one like it for 100 years. That is not what that means at all. You could have one every year. But what it does mean is that you have a 1 in 100 chance of water levels reaching a certain height. And those heights are shown on state and federal floodplain maps. So just to kind of let you know, and there's a lot of science here. Morehead's 100-year peak discharge is nearly 2,000 cubic feet per second. That's a lot of water. A 100-year flood is so much bigger than a 10-year flood. The description there is that it's 1,700 acre feet of flood water. That means 1,700 acres a foot deep in water. It's a lot of water. Jenny. So.
You want me to hit all of them?
Sorry?
Or the lines, do you want me to go ahead and do?
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
You want to give these?
Yeah, okay, so this is like me in the creek looking downstream, and this is what happens during a normal high water event, and the creek, that is a representation of where it would get at, let's say, a 100-year flood, but it could be a 50-year flood. But the area that it's labeled as floodplain is the area where we regulate it. We say, well, now you can do things in this floodplain, but there are rules. Go ahead, Jenny. What happens over the years is people fill in the floodplain, and you see that the water has nowhere, and then they build a house on it, or an apartment building, or a business there, and the water doesn't have as much area to spill into next. That puts those houses at more flood risk. Yes, thank you. So the two lines there, if the water would have normally been at the bottom line, since we filled it in and built on it, now it's going to get up into the other buildings that it normally wouldn't have gotten into. Sometimes FEMA comes along, we have a bad flood, and says, we got to do something here because every time it floods, these houses are claiming flood insurance, and it's cheaper to buy out some of these structures than it is to keep paying flood insurance on them. That's happened around here. Go ahead. So what a green sink basically does is, instead of getting down into the creek and dredging out the creek, which, you know, works for a while, we want to dredge out the side of the creek as they did there. You know, that house that was in the last slide got bought out, taken out, we brought the dirt back down, so now the water has some more area to go. Bringing the houses that are still there at a reduced risk. Go ahead. Okay, so there's another representation of what that means. You know, the top is original, bottom is as development occurs, the middle one rather, and then the bottom one is we're doing some mitigation to try to help make it like it used to be when this all started. Go ahead. Okay, the scientist is going to spend a lot of time telling us why dredging doesn't work. I think that might be arguing with themselves. It works. It's just the second you get done, the creek will start filling itself back in. And as an example, in 1970 and 71, there were areas where the creek was 200 feet wide, and now it's down to 40 feet in that same area. So if you, go ahead, if you fix that every year, well, you couldn't fix that every year. You know, you're going to see a couple of slides later, it's going to say something like, it's going to cost about $2 million a year to maintain that dredging. So we just can't do it. Go ahead. Go ahead. That's the place where it talks. There's a picture of an area that used to be 125 to 200 20 feet wide, now it's like 40 and 50 feet wide. Under 100 feet almost the whole area. This shows that the creek's gonna do what the creek wants to do, and it's not flow in a straight line. It's gonna flow in a meandering path, and water always wins. And this also talks about how it would cost over $2 million a year to keep doing that, to keep dredging the creek out. But not to get a dozer down in the creek and push it, but where do you take the water? I'm sorry, it's heavy, soupy, muddy dirt, and where do you take it? And it costs a lot to do it, especially with, diesel prices the way they are today and have been for the last 10 or 15 years. So the idea is, like I talked about earlier, the idea is to dredge the floodplain, not the creek. You can dredge the floodplain and sow it in grass and maintain it, and because it's only going to get water in it during a really heavy, really heavy storm, and not every day, so you can maintain that. And here, hopefully, here's what happens. You fill it up in those 2 to 10 year events, which would be 2% to 10% chance storm, And hopefully during some of the flood events, it stays out of the structures that were not at risk before the floodplain started getting filled in. So we had the Army Corps of Engineers, we paid them, I think, Beth, was it $75,000 maybe? Back in we started this in 2016. I think we probably finished that study in 18 or so. And to give us some options, what can we do? Everybody has an idea, everybody knows best, but the Corps of Engineers really knows the best. They've done the modeling, they've done the studies, and this is the front page of the study that we had done. And they gave us, it's like 8 or 10 options of what we could do. And then when Bob Hawley from Sustainable Streams came in and looked at their data and new techniques, and he pointed out the 3 or 4 best options that would make the most difference for the least amount of work and the least amount of expense. And there are just some options there, like removing the old railroad bridge as you leave city limits on Triplet. And it shows that you could reduce flood levels by almost a foot during some rain events. What I mean by that is 1 year event, 10 year event, 100 year event. If we get 7 inches of rain, guys, this is all perfunctory. I mean, we're gonna flood if we get 7 to 10 inches of rain like we have in the past. But the problem is, we also get floods when we get 2 or 3 inches. So this is what we really want to help. We don't want to keep flooding once every 5 years or once every 6 years. We know we can't help that 100-year flood.
The railroad bridge, that's how I judge when to leave.
Yeah, that's right. I can take that out.
400, I'm gone.
I can take that out one day, that would mean your watermark's gone, but you may have made it safer.
Look, and
Yeah. So this is just some of the different options. If you want to go on, please, Jen. So
I don't think there's been, how many of y'all in this room ever been down there when it's flooded? When it's really flooded at the worst, like 3 in the morning and the water's in.
Greg has.
Maybe 3 of us in the room. How bad it's really moving.
That's right. That's right. So our idea, I say Brian Storrs is our Licking River Basin Coordinator. And he and I, and actually Daryl, had a meeting at Buffalo Wild Wings, and then I've had some subsequent meetings with Brian, and he, what do we need? I said, well, we need help with flooding. And so he studies it, takes it back to his buddies at the Division of Water, and they come up with these, he coined the term green sinks to describe what's basically big dry ponds. And I'm going to try to make it as simple as I can. Go in the flat areas beside the creek that if you look at the floodplain map, that's in the floodplain. we don't care. You look at this area and you say, well, that's where the water spills out to when we get a lot of rain. Okay, well, there's dirt in the way, so it can't spill out, and it keeps, water always goes to the lowest elevation, which in our case is First Street, Main Street, so if we dig out these giant dry ponds and give the water somewhere to go besides our street during some rain events, as many of these big giant dry ponds as we can put in, the better off we are. And our study identified the 5 greatest ones, the 5 lowest hanging fruit, and a couple of auxiliary ones, and then the railroad bridge removal. And he did a lot of modeling on, which had already been done by the Corps. He did some further modeling that showed what the reduction would be. Go ahead, Jenny, I'm talking too long, guys. Just because it's interesting to me doesn't mean.
I find it very interesting, because I live down there.
Well, anybody that's been through a flood would definitely.
You're gonna save us all money, Rodney, I think.
That's what.
Yeah.
Life or two.
Maybe a life or two.
Yeah.
Oh, here's some more discussion about the areas, what we're talking about. Go ahead, Jenny. Okay, you gotta study these to understand these. But, so the different line colors indicate different percentage change, like 100-year rain, a 50-year rain, a 20-year rain, and you can see it goes all the way up to a 2-year event. Okay, so this again is if I'm down in the creek, looking downstream, what it would look like and how high the water would get. The numbers on the left are the height, the altitude, if you will, of the water, and the numbers at the bottom are the distance from a certain point. You see the lines that go up and down that have riding sideways, those are defined points. Those are points that flood insurance studies say, okay, at a 100-year event, the water will be, let's say, for instance, on the far left there, the water at the Clearfield at 519 Bridge, the water during that purple line is a 25-year event, and the water will be somewhere around 700, and looks like that's about 18 feet in elevation. Okay, well then the dotted line below that says, but here's what would happen if we are able to successfully remove the railroad bridge. So you can see that, again, there's that 0.8 tenths of a foot. So almost a foot dropped of water, flood water, from Clearfield to, looks like about, it's hard to see this far, but the Conference Center. So you see a difference from 519 to the Conference Center by taking out that railroad bridge under a lot of different rain events. That's all. You don't have to get too deep into learning how to use it. That's all it shows. This is Bob's way of showing us, I've done the modeling, here I can prove it. Here's what it shows. Here's some of the next slides. Go ahead, Jenny. These are just more options if we do all 5 of those floodplain green sinks and remove the bridge. You can start to see a difference in the solid lines and the colored lines, or I'm sorry, the dashed lines of the same color are kind of before and after. Here's what it would be with the dash line, but here's what it would be if we don't do that. And you can start to see some real differences in there. Jenny? Same. These are just options. You can just skip right through those. These are just what if we do some of those options.
There's lots of graphs.
There's a lot of graphs. And if you want to see this, let me know. I'll send you the report and you can geek out with me. The notable findings, a 1-foot drop in the flood elevation predicted at the Conference Center for a 10-year event. So what that tells you, the Conference Center got some water in it in 2010, I think.
Yeah, it's the worst.
Yeah. So he's saying and it just barely got in. I think it was as much splashing in as it was standing in water. record, hey, that's a 10-year, everybody hollers we have a 100-year flood, that wasn't. But nonetheless, if we could have dropped that level a foot, it's not just a conference center it would have saved. You know, it would have saved a lot of buildings, and it could have been the difference between getting 3 or 4 inches in a building versus 15 inches in a building. 1 to 3 feet drop in the flood elevation predicted in the Round County Detention Center. That is, if we're able to do some of the auxiliary things, those are some pretty complicated digs. We're gonna have to get some real funding to do those. The purple area at the top on the right is the area as it leaves town, going up Christie Creek and in behind the old tobacco warehouse. When you go across that bridge, there's a big, huge field there. If that field could be dropped 3 to 10 feet, however high it is above the water, it could still be used to plant crops in. The trick is getting all that dirt out of there. It's got to go somewhere.
Question, is the county involved with this too? Some staging up above?
At this point, we're kind of spearheading the grant process and developing these, but they are keenly interested in it. Let me say it differently. We've spearheaded this for the whole United States. I get calls from other states very regularly. We've been in I've been on the news doing interviews in Huntington. Seattle Times, Washington Post have done an interview with us. Everybody's desperate to help flood it, you know, and there's some answers, but not every answer, you know. If I can tell the rain when to quit, then I can stop it.
Oh, we don't want that.
You know. Yes, sir.
What's to keep the sinks from just filling up and becoming ponds?
Well, they're going to fill up, but every gallon of water that they hold is a gallon that didn't spill somewhere else. And then the intent is, yeah, you're right, I didn't describe that very well. The bottom of a green sink is a permeable basin. And so it's designed to fill up and then empty back out over a period of a couple of weeks. A lot of people say, what about the sediment that gets trapped in there? There have been some of these done in other states, but data shows that they don't have to be cleaned back out for anywhere from 10 to 50 years. So a properly done one is not self-maintaining because the slope is gentle enough around the perimeter of the bank that we can mow it. Less than 5% grade, so we can mow that. But the bottom kind of takes care of itself. And if it doesn't, we just kind of clean it out and we're good to go again for another 10 to 50 years.
With
Good
the,
question.
with the foliage, it keeps erosion from going in it.
That's right. Well, we've been planting grass around the creek banks and another idea is sometimes, you know, you could wouldn't that make a great amphitheater? You know, some of the ideas we had is if we could have a giant pond, that's a natural amphitheater, or a park, or a dog park, or a playground, or something like that. Some of the things that have been tossed around.
I have a question. I know I've interrupted quite a bit, and so you're wanting to do that on this east side is what I'm looking at, right?
You're looking at the entirety of town.
Okay.
From top to bottom, the top would be the east side.
Where's Green Street? I mean, West Morehead.
West Morehead's, see that
Are
yellow?
we still gonna be the water catcher?
See that yellow one at the bottom that looks like a giant heart? That would be the best figure that we could get. And hopefully that does catch a load of water in and out.
That'd be my house.
No, your house is not in that sink.
That's what I'm trying to figure out, where, you know, what you're doing is West Morehead still gonna be where the water's gonna
The
flow?
water always flows downhill.
Yes.
So we can't make it flow uphill.
By you doing that upstream, how's that gonna help us
We're not-
downstream?
The biggest one is downstream. The
Okay.
biggest one, heart shape, is downstream. That's the best difference we can make.
I'm looking at it, I'm trying to understand.
On the point of downstream too, something I learned I thought was interesting, like when the water is retained by these sinks, it permeates back slowly into the stream over, a few days or a week,
Right.
which helps our downstream friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, it also has a pollution.
Oh, yeah.
Effect. If we trap water in the pond and then it slowly leaches back into the soil, we're also keeping pollution out of our stream, which helps us get more funding because it's a point source pollution protection.
I have another question, if you don't care. With our mayor leaving and our options, and the way Jim Tom did the last time he was in here, he let them bypass and dump all that dirt in West Morehead.
Talking about
Before
where the
he
pawn
got
shop is,
the-
you can't blame on him. That the state.
The state gave the permit later, after it was dumped, and it was for filling, not for dumping.
That's not entirely accurate.
Okay.
The state has to write any fill in the floodplain.
Okay.
And at the time, those permits didn't expire, they do not.
Okay,
So
this
now
is
they have a
another
1-year
question.
time limit. But
You gonna be on the
You can call
lookout to make
me-
sure
you
that
can
they
call me
don't do that
anytime.
no more?
I'm sorry?
You can be on the lookout to make sure that doesn't happen once he gets back in, that type of stuff. Okay.
But, yeah, if somebody violates a floodplain, regulation, yes, that's
Well,
my
I
job.
see it happen quite a bit down there.
Didn't you have to call me and told me, or I would have addressed it?
I know that, I know that.
I drive down there too. I mean, we keep it, it's a serious thing.
Yeah.
You know, I have to get floodplain permits when I want to build something. so
Well, we
everybody else
had,
does
me
too.
and Honey's had to get floodplains for everything we've done.
Right.
I mean, a permit from Frankfurt to do our and all
You
that.
gotta advertise it in the newspaper. Please give me a call. I'm happy to go over any of that with you. I'm saying y'all every day.
Rodney, I'm gonna
Please.
tell you to wrap it up.
Yep.
It's okay. With peace and love.
Just shows, that's one foot drop. Go ahead.
I do have a question.
Sure.
Okay. Michael Frazier, I'm a big fan of your work. I'm originally from Clay City, and you helped our mayor and also in the re-navigating and the floodplains with her project because of
Right.
your success nationally. So I'm a huge fan of yours. With the redistribution, what does that do to the floodplains, particularly with insuring and also FEMA resources?
That's a great question.
And then two, noticing the maps, most of those areas are usually correspond in an indirect relationship to lower property values. So what happens to the low-income housing that would be available, and has that been assessed, and how do we think?
Well, I mean, it wouldn't affect the low-income housing unless, by doing this, we're able to make such a difference that the
lower
flood
the
map
floodplains.
changes. And if the flood map changes, less area around the creek would be as prone to flooding. And therefore, that property wouldn't have wouldn't have to have flood insurance, which is expensive.
Right.
So more land would be developable, you know, but we have to be careful and not
Do the same thing again.
motion that we started, you know.
Right.
By and large, the floodplain shouldn't be developed. We don't have the luxury of saying that because these buildings have been in this floodplain for 100 years, you know. You can't say, oh, pack it up and move. But we can be real careful about what we allow to go back in. Like, so if a new house wants to go into floodplain, it can go in. It has to have a certificate of elevation showing that's 1 foot above the 100-year flood mark. If more land is available that doesn't apply to, so much the better. That's a lot of Morehead, not just the low income.
Right.
Great questions.
Yeah.
I mean, in short, right there's the goal. Drop the flood levels down. You know, that's audacious right there. 1 foot drop at the top of the storm. Heck, we'd be so happy to drop it 3 inches that it would just be wonderful.
So basically, I don't, keep my flood insurance.
Anybody can get flood insurance, whether or
No,
not.
and I meant my own insurance.
Okay,
Where I'm at.
so, one last thing I'll say. Flood insurance, is expensive, but it is directly proportional to how high your house is above or below the 100-year flood mark benchmark.
Mine's supposed to be built for the 100-year flood mark, but I've seen every flood down there
Yeah.
in 30 years.
So if your house is 6 inches above base flood elevation, it's gonna be one price. If it's a foot above it or 2 feet above it, your insurance could fall by 60%.
Okay, so the reason I'm mainly here is I'm just trying to understand, is this gonna benefit the homes in West Morehead?
That's the hope, that it benefits everybody in Morehead. Yeah. I mean, we would definitely never do anything that would cause more. There's nothing we're doing that can cause more flooding. All it can do is help. Even if it doesn't work the way the scientists say it would work, it wouldn't cause more flooding.
I'm going to
happy to
have Ronnie tell you, he's seen on this.
And I will wrap it up, because otherwise we're gonna be here all night.
Thanks, Rodney. Okay, we will move on. Within Rodney's report, we have the Trace Creek construction update. Turning all over. Woo! Spotlight for you.
For the majority of all the perimeter footings are in. We have piers and walls that we're forming up as we speak. We still have the storm shelter to get that foundation in. We hope to have that before the end of the month. So.
Great.
Thank goodness for good weather.
That's right. That's right. With that, we have the approval of payment number 5.
I make a motion to approve payment number 5.
Second?
Any questions? Okay, please call roll.
Cash.
Yes.
Shack.
Yes.
Bottle.
Yes.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Paisley.
Yes.
Middleton.
Yes.
Thank you. Under the general business agenda, unfinished business, the first item is the second reading of an ordinance adopting the City of Morehead, Kentucky annual budget for fiscal year 7/1/2025 through 6/30/2026 by estimating revenues and resources and appropriating funds for the operation of city government amendment number 2.
So moved.
Second.
That's the same one we talked about last meeting.
Yes, this is the second and final reading on that amendment. Okay, please call roll.
Cash.
Yes.
Shack.
Yes.
Cottle.
Yes.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Paisley.
Yes.
Middleton.
Yes.
Thank you. Item 2, we have received the audit for the fiscal year ending 6/30/2025 as presented in the work session on February 27th, 2026 and filed in the city clerk's office. We just need to take an official vote of acceptance on that report.
Motion.
Second.
Questions or discussion?
Just that it was a clean audit.
Clean audit, no findings?
Yeah, I'd like to compliment all these guys over here too, because in the process of reading the audit, they all came in under budget.
That's
That's
right.
amazing for all of our departments to come in under budget.
Great work. Very. Okay, please call roll.
Cash.
Yes.
Shack.
Yes.
Cottle.
Yes.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Paisley.
Yes.
Middleton.
Yes.
Under new business, the first item we have is a resolution to enter into a contract with Fresh Start for medical services for city employees.
So moved.
Second.
I don't know if you have questions or discussion, but I'll add just a little point of reference here. We started having conversations with this group, a while back, because we were running into situations where we go through a company for random drug screenings as required, and the hospital hours were no longer able to accommodate the shifts of employees. So for example, if a dispatcher is working night shift or a police officer, they have to go as soon as we hand them that request for a drug screen. And so this organization is able to accommodate after hours services, as well as a number of other services. So this just allows us to have them as an option as well.
Will they come on site?
Some things they will come on site, yeah.
If you have enough people called at one time, they will.
Yeah. They're local. I mean, and I say local, their main provider is a Morehead citizen. So it's nice to have that as well. Okay, please call roll.
Cash.
Yes.
Shack.
Yes.
Cottle.
Yes.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Paisley.
Yes.
Middleton.
Yes.
Item 2 is a resolution of the City of Morehead authorizing the purchase of a portion of real property located in Morehead, Kentucky, Deed Book 114, page 47, containing 11 acres, more or less, for use in this project for flood mitigation, and approving and authorizing the mayor to execute any documents related to this purchase for the Green Sinks project.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or discussion?
I just want to say that I'm hopeful that when I'm long dead and gone, that there's people that don't get their homes destroyed or lose lives from what we're doing. It's worthy.
Yes, it is.
I would just add on this, Mayor, that this qualifies for the match in the
Right.
grant. That's already within your budget. Just so that's noted. And also there's surveys that we have to do because it's not the entire property, it's just a portion. So this is giving the mayor authority to hopefully close that deal probably before we get back in the April meeting. So if we can just go ahead and have it.
Yeah, that's the
Authorized.
heart shape one, isn't it?
The one at the bottom.
And allows us to get rid of that railroad trestle as well, too.
And this is a very progressive move.
It is.
It shows that this city council is committed, not just to today, but tomorrow and the future.
Absolutely. Well
The
said.
hard part about it is if it's successful, nobody.
No one will know. All right.
I'll put it on Facebook.
Facebook.
Don't jinx it.
All right, please call roll.
Cash.
Yes.
Shack.
Yes.
Cottle.
Yes.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Easley. Littleton.
Yes.
Item 3 is the first reading of an ordinance amending the City of Morehead, Kentucky Code of Ordinances, Title 5, Public Utilities, Chapter 51, Gas and Water, 51.02, Service Rates and Charges, Chapter 53, Sewer, 52.72, Charges and Fees, Chapter 55, Stormwater, 55.06, Utility Fees, by increasing the rates, charges, and fees.
So moved.
Second.
That was a long one. Questions or discussion? Please ready.
Yeah, I'm assuming these increases are due to,
Yeah, these are the Department of Local Government every year comes out with a letter that all governments get, and it's based off of the price indexing for this area through the Department of Labor and Statistics. And that's what we've been doing for like, I guess, the last 5 years. And this year it's 2.7%. And it's something that KIA endorses for everybody to be proactive to try to keep away from those giant rate increases. You don't want to say, hey, I have to do a 30% increase. When you do the little ones to keep up with the times, it's a lot more palatable.
understand, thank
Is
you.
it what got ignored for 30 years?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I think I ask you this every year. I appreciate that.
It helps for clarification.
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks.
Yep.
Okay, please call roll.
Cash.
Yes.
Shack.
Yes.
Cottle.
Yes.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Easley.
Yes.
Littleton.
Yes.
Item 4 is the first reading of an ordinance adopting a budget for the Morehead Utility Plant Board for fiscal year 2026 through 2027 by the Board of the City Council of the City of Morehead, Kentucky.
Second.
Questions or discussion?
Can you tell us any big changes or anything in it, Holly?
Everything is as normal. You're gonna start seeing a lot less capital as we're starting to pay back debt service. And we're gonna purchase, some directional boring equipment so we can start doing a lot bigger projects in-house, which will, help a lot. One of the projects we're looking at doing is, the Skaggs Road fire hydrant one that was several years back. It was gonna cost close to $1 million, I guess. That's something we'll be able to do in-house. Once we get the equipment, we'll be able to do up to a 24-inch line, directionally bore.
Tom Carew will be very happy.
I know.
He will be very, very happy. Okay, please call roll.
Cash.
Yes.
Shack.
Yes.
Cottle.
Yes.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Easley.
Yes.
Littleton.
Yes.
Item 5 is the first reading of the City of Morehead, Kentucky, amending Title III Administration, Chapter 40, Ethics Code of the City of Morehead, Code of Ordinances, by establishing an updated ethical code of conduct applicable to the officers and employees of the city and city agencies.
So moved.
Second.
This is what we had our training on last week, the city and the plant board. So we're a certified
City of Essex.
City of Ethics. Yeah, I'm not sure how they phrased it. Yeah. There it is, our plaques in the back. So this is the first update the city's done since 1994 when it was adopted.
I got a couple of technical issues
Yeah.
with it. one, like section 20, impugn, I didn't really know that word. I looked it up. It means like to falsely, well, it means to accuse someone of lying. But our section says like to falsely impugn someone. Yeah, I didn't know, like, if that was, I mean, sounds to me maybe a First Amendment thing, I don't know.
So you can call them a liar, but you gotta be right.
Yeah, it's like, it's exactly
That's
right.
kind of what it
You gotta
is.
prove, I don't know where the burden's at, I don't, that was just one issue it's on, page 169 of our document.
Yep.
Cause like the only penalty, you gotta apologize to your friend.
In the same manner.
Yeah, so I don't know.
But if you don't apologize, then they're gonna think you
Then
did
there's
it
a-
on purpose.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Any other things that stand out that changed on this, that
Not since the training, no. No.
when I read through it, I was like, it's this copy.
Yeah, so it removed the prior section on social media, just because there's been a lot of First Amendment issues with that. It did increase.
Oh, did you mean from the 1994?
previous-
Okay,
Yeah.
yes, I thought you
Yeah.
meant since the training.
It increased the number of missed meetings. Right now it's 2. That's been increased to 4, and a valid reason would excuse missed meetings. So medical reason, what you all didn't have before. It did add a financial disclosure section for you all, and then there's candidates, and now we are going to require boards, people who sit on boards, so Parks and Rec Board, Planning Commission, TIF Board, those kinds of boards will also need to fill out those financial disclosure statements. So yeah, there's several little minute changes, I would say, since the last one.
Another thing, it said the rules of civil procedure and rules of evidence wouldn't be at play. I kind of worry about that because someone could use hearsay to bring an allegation.
The problem would be that none of us are qualified judicial candidates. Our ethics board won't be. So essentially, I think my role is to kind of walk them through it, but in administrative hearings, hearsay is acceptable, unfortunately. But you can bring your own witnesses in.
Yes.
And they can do their own hearsay right back.
Defend yourself with hearsay.
So, but it's not supposed to be a judicial decision. And you can appeal. You do get to appeal to a judge.
Yeah.
So the standard would change once you go to court. But
I saw
for the
that.
initial hearing.
He is, just be ethical.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, don't worry.
Yeah.
That's all I've got. Just, thanks.
Okay, please call roll.
Cash,
Yes.
Shack,
Yes.
Cottle,
Yes.
Baldwin,
Yes.
Beasley,
Yes.
Littleton,
Yes.
Okay, under other city business, that's where we had a discussion of any pending legislation affecting cities. So today I had our quarterly, but during the legislative session, we meet weekly or bi-weekly as a board of directors. And we went through bills that are proposed currently, that either the Kentucky League of Cities would support, stay neutral, or oppose. There's a big mix of bills. We went through everything from ABC administration to benefits for fire and police, to planning and zoning, a little bit of everything. The board feels good about where they sit right now as far as advocacy on all of these House bills. So they're doing the work that we expect them to do. They're in Frankfurt every day advocating for cities, giving a voice for home rule, local control, all of those pieces. So I don't know, were there some specific bills, Megan, that you wanted us to look at tonight?
No, when
or-
we had brought it up at the work session, I believe, there was some interest, and some cities are taking official stances to either support a bill or go against a bill. And so that's just something that before I could draft something, need some direction from the council on. And it's fine to say, we're going to stay out of it. But if there is something that someone does want me to draft something on, I know other cities, I think Rodney had actually emailed me, a couple cities have sent some stuff to Frankfurt. So that's up to you all. So we just put it on for discussion. There was no one bill or intent behind it, just what your all's feelings were and kind of how we would move forward after talking to you all.
And typically, if a bill comes up that is crucial to jeopardizing local control. The league will send out basically an all-call alert, and cities will do either a special meeting or, depending on the timing, some sort of resolution immediately to draw attention to that.
Are there specific bills that you talked about in the session today that?
We talked about 100 different, literally, we went through 100 different bills.
That's like last week.
2 hours of our board meeting. I think we have another one on Monday. But I tell you, if you want to see some people work hard, you go watch the KLC Government Division. I mean, they're up there as well with all organizations.
You want to say anything tonight? No, yeah, and it might be something you see one and you're like, you can just shoot me an email that say, I'm really feel strong about this and want to bring it up at council, and I could draft something, put it on for next meeting.
Well, I guess I should ask, are there any that KLC, I know you talk about 100 bills, and I know.
Well, and also, I think the bill introductions now are up to like 937 bills have been.
But it's finished now, right?
They can't
do any more. Are there any that they are kind of confident that they could possibly pass?
There are some related to ABC administration that are concerning because they relate directly to tax rates.
Tax rates.
And I don't know that bill number off the top of my head, but I can send you what KLC sent out today on it.
Yeah, I had that marked. That wouldn't hurt us as much as it would hurt some others.
Right. We're in a fairly stable spot with it. But again, and it ties into restaurant tax collection, and that's, as we know, has already been challenged recently. There is a bill that was introduced actually about basically the opposite of the lawsuit that occurred out of Hazard, but this bill just says every city can have a restaurant tax, period. And I don't know that it will have much movement, but it has been introduced, which I wish had happened in the first place than the legal side of it.
I was at the city county administrators conference last week. And same take. There's a lot of bills being proposed, but everybody kind of felt like, for the most part, we have a grip on it.
Absolutely. I laugh, and Helen will laugh, because earlier today, my mom stopped by the office and she's like, "Oh, I forgot it was city council tonight." She said, "You're not going to say anything at the end of the meeting, are you?" And I was like, I have nothing planned, and now I have something planned, which is what I tend to do. So I, type little notes on my phone as I go through. But I'm going to go back to House Bill 530. This is not a chew, okay? I'm glad you're here, but it brings up something that I want to just give reference to, one, because I'm passionate about it. But I think it is my job as an elected official, especially in local government, as well as city council, as well as department heads. You'll see different, the Police Chiefs Association, the Fire Chiefs Association, they're all watching bills every time they're in session because it directly affects the work that we do. And serving on the Kentucky League of Cities Board of Directors, I believe in the principle of local control and maintaining open and good communication with state, local, federal elected officials, leadership, and government. Cities and counties are the grassroots of legislation that passes. We are the ones who get passed down the unfunded mandates. We are the ones who, when a piece of legislation goes into effect, we have to facilitate it, we have to implement it, we have to operate it. The police, the fire department, city zoning and planning, all of that comes through what we do directly. So while it often seems like there's a little bit of separation between legislation in Frankfurt and actual local government, it's so intertwined and interwoven. And that's why I always stress how much of importance it is that we pay attention, because when bills are passed, we're the ones who have to pick up those pieces and put it together. And so it's really important to me, and that's the part I love most about this job is the advocacy piece of it. But you know, it's disappointing when legislation gets introduced and there's not been a conversation locally. You know, when your local leadership, when your municipalities are not consulted with something that's going to be directly impacting. And so while we spoke about House Bill 530 and how there are different pieces and how it's not necessarily relevant at the moment to Morehead, it does jeopardize local control. And so that was the issue originally. But I hope that if anything like this comes up again, that our representatives and their staffers or their people, whoever they may be, would show up to the meetings themselves, have conversations with us, come into City Hall, along with third parties. Because again, at the end of the day, what passes, we cannot control, you cannot control, you know, it's those voting in Frankfurt. And so I would express interest in open communications about home rule and local control. And I'll be quiet now. I'll leave it at that.
Well, and it's a very important issue.
I was hoping you would say something at the end, because the last few times you have, and it makes you happy.
It's a very important issue because the local level is where the rubber seems to meet the road.
Absolutely.
And it is where people will come and complain to us about this, that, and the other thing, and blame us sometimes for things for which we have had zero input, and not even had the numbers looked at. And this particular legislature, in my opinion, has not served the underserved of this state very well at all in anything, healthcare, schools, education, you name it. I'm not sure the group that they are looking to serve, but I don't believe that it is a place like Morehead. I believe possibly larger cities with maybe lots more money and lots more opportunities, perhaps they won't be as hard hit. This community will be fairly hard hit with some of the budgetary issues. And by removing a lot of the local control, we still listen. We still hope that people will continue to come to city council, think about these things, but most people don't check the legislative calendar. They don't know what the bills are about, and the legislature counts on that. They really do. And why I took exception with that bill, which I said was a solution in search of a problem, that's exactly the way it looked to me. I read it carefully. I knew there were some issues, and I thought, and why are we wasting taxpayers' money on all of this? So I think the best thing we can say is voters do need to pay attention. They do need to be informed, but it's not an easy job because you read those bills and you're like, what does this possibly mean? What does it
Very lengthy.
Yeah.
Now, Madam Mayor, I know this is unorthodox.
That's all right.
I was late for the public comments.
That's okay.
But I was wondering if I could make
Sure.
a brief comment.
Sure.
So I know I'm not from Morehead, but the Homeless Coalition here in Kentucky, we have all had to band together because the need is great. And I can say personally that as someone that has called homeless shelters from Morehead to Louisville, we've been full for the past 6 months. So when we look at initiatives like the housing crisis, we know it's not unique to Kentucky. And we also know that it goes beyond rural and urban divide. And so I will say that in working on these issues, and that's what brought me here to Morehead, and working with individuals who were trying to find unique circumstances for their homes, it's where we ran into problems, unique problems, particularly here in rural Kentucky, like here in Morehead, on how it was impacting the housing crisis. With HB 530, I will say that was the launch of it, was actually issues here in Morehead and Rowan County. And not unique to Rowan County or Morehead, but unique in the sense of being in Eastern Kentucky. For example, an individual trying to get a permit.
He was actually here at the beginning of the meeting and spoke about it.
Yeah. So there are unique.
Oh, he's still here.
And there are unique issues. And so when we look at the bill, and especially KLC, I have to say with HB 530 and also HB 617 and 618, I've been very excited about those bills because, and I appreciate your work with KLC because JD and Gracie, they do tremendous work.
They do.
They have been part of the conversations with the bills and worked with Representative White and continues to do that.
They have, and that's why we're still opposed, KLC as a board, to all three bills as they're drafted, because those changes that they suggested have not been implemented, unfortunately.
But I think that's important to note, is that when we look at these legislation that's been in ongoing discussion since the summer, I think Representative White actually testified before the interim joint commission on the issues of permitting in rural Kentucky and the timeframes. So KLC has been very active and part of the conversations with Representative White since then.
Yes.
So onto the note that you just made, that this is all drafting. This is all just currently proposed, and especially if it hasn't hit committee, I hope that the city of Morehead will engage with Representative White because I know he's been engaging with the citizens here too.
Yeah.
I appreciate your work on KLC, and I'm so thankful that they've been a partner with Representative White on the bill.
Yeah, well, when it threatens local control, they step up for us, absolutely.
Motion to adjourn?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.